Hello everybody, this is week 12 of SFA Weekly Roundup. We'll just get right into it. Game day, Baylor kind of destroyed Kansas. They kept it close in the first half due to 3 Teddy Bridgewater interceptions, but they kind of pulled it away. Good news for Kansas though, JJ Justice finally did something in a great game, even though their quarterback went out halfway through. Virginia gets an upset over Georgia Tech. Arizona State rolls. ECU is now the only unbeaten team left in the country. You got touchdowns from Mike Heisenberg and Allen Hurns, two of the best, if not the two best receivers in the country. Ohio State rolled. Tennessee rolled, even though they gave up 35 to Vanderbilt. Iowa State gets 31. Michigan State, once again, a BearCave game. They are close. Binks McBurnfinger, 3 touchdowns. And Minnesota just could never get that game tied. FIU wins by 3 on game day. Buffalo survives Akron, and they get bowl eligible for the first time in their history. Pittsburgh takes out Duke, who was leading in the ACC division. So now Miami has the path to the conference championship game. Georgia Southern locks up their division. SFA A, Georgia wins by 14 here over Mississippi State. San Diego State continues to roll. Same with New Mexico. That's likely the title game for the Mountain West. Northern Illinois blanks Ohio at home. Toledo puts up 62. I believe that's the biggest total of the week. Chad Barber gets absolutely destroyed here. Look at this stat line, one of the worst I've ever seen. A 42.6 rating, 8 for 33 for 96 yards. Alabama blanks Utah State. Colorado. Utah beats Arizona. Louisiana wins. This is the biggest upset of the week in a rather chalk week. Stanford takes them out, and the big swing play was Fork. Got a pick 6 here at the end of the fourth quarter to give them the game-winning touchdown, to go up by 2 scores because it looks like Cal added one late. So SFA player critical in that upset. This is a kind of a big upset. Rutgers lost to Army, so Army now kind of controls their own destiny in the division. Iowa put up a great performance. Same with Michigan. Clemson just destroyed Louisville. And another shocking upset. The last Power 5 unbeaten. Boston College got smoked by Florida State. Their defense just couldn't stop anything in this game. Braxton Miller kind of popped off. Sicko game of the week, Ole Miss. They kind of got lucky here at the end. LSU kind of choked on some time management, and then they won in overtime. UTEP gets their first win of the day, or of the season. Illinois continues to do well. In a surprising overtime game here, but A&M does outlast them. A rivalry game, so it's something you might expect. But A&M did drop in the rankings because of that. Houston continues to win. Miami, like I said, now controls their own destiny. Nevada continues to stay unbeaten in conference, one of the more surprising Mountain West teams. And finally, Flipper Masters, they get a game-winning touchdown here at within the last minute. Touchdown pass to the running back. He had 3 touchdowns in that fourth quarter, so they avoid the upset from Marshall. And that's all the games for week 12. I will go over the rankings. Rankings were pretty easy this week. Like I said, not a lot of upsets or anything. So Baylor stays at 1. Michigan State moves up. Ohio State moves up. ECU moves up. Florida moves up. And then this is where we decided Boston College should be. Houston is actually jumping Utah and Colorado. Tennessee is still the top-ranked 2-loss team, followed by Northwestern, and then Cal, who also lost, so they're not still above Tennessee or anything, so they're going to probably need that Pac-12 auto bid. Arizona State's right behind them. Then you got Georgia, the top 3-loss team. Illinois starts moving up. A&M or dropped back. Alabama is right there as well, with Miami still as the lowest 2-loss team. I'd expect if they keep winning that they will hop these 3-loss teams. Florida State, after their big upset, hops up to 19. Ole Miss drops one. Washington moves up a little bit. Mid-Tennessee State, close game. They did drop one spot, but they still can't get that auto bid. Georgia Southern locked out of an auto bid, but still the highest ranked 2-loss, G5. Iowa State gets ranked, and Toledo surprisingly gets ranked after, like I said, their high scoring performance against Central Michigan. Now if we go into we're going to go through the players of the week first. So players of the week, you got Drew Carter of Colorado, 480 yards and 7 touchdowns, over 500 total yards. And then a surprising Eric Pittman, 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and 2 interceptions from a linebacker. So he was Mr. Do Everything against Hawaii. ACC, you got Ouija Guido and Braxton Miller, 2 SFA players, 2 picks, forced fumble, and then 5 total touchdowns from Braxton in that huge game. Big Ten, 2 sacks and some fumbles, and then Deuce Hogan, he had 6 touchdowns. Tons of high performing quarterbacks this season. Big 12, Shad Boyko on game day had 4 sacks, and like I said, Drew Carter. In the American, you got Flipper Masters, 400 yards, 3 tutties, and then once again 3 turnovers forced by Jack Dingle. Conference USA, you got Chuck Jones and Maddox Kopp, he had 4 touchdowns himself. Independence, typical, we had an interception, and then 4 TDs for Conover. Arch Manning, player of the week, 5 total touchdowns for him against Akron, even though Horton was able to force a few fumbles. And then we had a 4 touchdown, 160-yard game for the Nevada receiver. You got Keith Brown, sack, forced fumble, fumble recovery. Then E.J. Smith, 3 touchdowns for Stanford in that massive upset. For the SEC, Miles Ricketts, he had an interception in that game. And then Lou Ishire, 429 with 7 touchdowns against Vanderbilt. Tobias Fletcher, 2 interceptions for Coastal. And then Michael Johnson Jr., 4 total touchdowns as well. And that does it for the individual game performances. Now we'll look at the season stat leaders. You got Travion Boykin, 3,700 yards. Conover, Milner, Braxton Miller, and then Kiko Strong, 3 SFA quarterbacks. Rushing, Sanders still in second. You got Porter, Ducker, and then Binks McBurnfinger is in 5th now. Receiving leaders, Mike Evans. McBride dropped after game day. He didn't really do much, so only 1 SFA player up there. Tackle leaders, you have all SFA teams, but 1 SFA player, David McCormack. He had a huge game day, I think posting something like 19 tackles. Sack leaders, these have pretty much stayed the same. The Houston Lawrence defensive lineman is at the top. Interception leaders, Diza Fernandez retakes first place, as now we have 3 people up at 7. And then kicking leaders, as always, Roberto Aguayo remains at the top, along with Becker from Colorado. This list really hasn't changed in a few weeks. Now we're going to go over the award finalists. So these have now become finalists. It used to be semifinalists the last few weeks. So Marcus Davis, SFA player. He is also leading the Walter Camp. The Bednarik, best defensive player. Nico Reed, Lawrence, he leads in sacks. Marcus Davis again. Cam Porter, best running back. Belentikov, Alan Hearns at the top. Eric Ebron for the Mackey. Outland is a Georgia man. Maurice Smith. Lombardi is Lawrence. The Butkus is Mohan. The Thorpe is Reed. Becker and Mike Morris for Michigan State. And then Jet. For the Jet is Ryan Scales, a Stanford player, even though he does not have a return touchdown, which is a little bit interesting. Now let's look at the Heisman watch, see if there's any changes this week. And nothing too big to tell. McBurnfinger, like we saw, had 3 touchdowns, and looks like he had 9 tackles on defense, so hard to outlast that. Marcus Davis, though, seems to be right behind him, even though they did lose. Milner moves up, even though they lost. Cam Porter went down, even though he had 4 touchdowns. And Bo Wallace remains in the 5th, even though he had a pretty bad game in that rain game against Notre Dame. Now we're going to go over injuries. Not really all that many injuries this week that are really of note. I do want to go over all 3 major injuries for this week. So first up, we are going to go to Clemson. Their top running back, Will Shipley, partially torn MCL. He is done for the year. And then we are going to go to Buffalo. Their top receiving threat, Ty Schultz, he broke that fibula. He's done for the season. A lot of you guys know he had an insane plus 20 overall in his freshman year. This season, I know he had a few touchdowns in this game, but yeah, broken fibula, he's done for the year. And then you got Louisiana and the number 1 prospect from season 8, Darrent Williams, the cornerback. Disappointing year for Louisiana, and now he has a dislocated elbow, which is 8 weeks, but where we are in the season, that's easily going to end the year. So we'll see if Darrent Williams can come back for his junior season and have a better year. He only had 1 interception this season, so not exactly what you want. He did have 13 pass deflections, though, and a lot of tackles. It looks like he was getting in there on run defense a lot more than last year, and he had a half sack. So really disappointing injury for the top cornerback in the country. I don't believe there's anything else that I am missing. I know you guys did want me to go through next week's games. So week 13, these were just posted. I'm just going to do a quick scroll. This is game day, Arizona State at Utah. Winner takes over the division and most likely will play the Pac-12 championship against California for a spot in the playoff. Everything points to Utah being the better team, but we know Coach Rick and Jared Lorenzen are a tough match, especially late in the year, so do not count them out. So scrolling through here, Boston College at Clemson. Alabama, Florida is a big one. Texas at Ole Miss. Not a ton huge matchups. That Louisiana Tech Houston game once again is going to be huge. That's probably their hardest test of the season. We are in a year where there very well could be 2 group of 5 teams in the playoff. So that's going to wrap up week 13, the preview at least. And yeah, that wraps up this weekly roundup. Thanks for watching.